Welcome back to another edition of the Mariners Walkoff podcast. I am Jordy Bott, joined with Juan Forno, and right now we are pretty much the presidents of the We Hate Cedric Mullins fan club right now. Oh my goodness, that guy is he despises us. What does he have against us?
Well, he ruins vacations. This I know.
And weekends. It's May long. I was going to have a good one, and then he's like, no, Sebi Zavala, we're going to ruin it.
Now, to not give Cedric Mullins too many flowers, I don't know how much of a robbery that one was today. It was
more robbed him of a double.
Yeah, it was just the fan base trying to lift that ball over the fence out of his reach. But yeah, tough series against the Orioles. A little bit better against the Royals, but not a bad week overall, in my opinion. 3-3, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, we took 2 of 3 from Kansas City and then 1 of 3 from Baltimore.
Those are 2 playoff teams right there. So, I mean, we're going into game 7, all tied up if that was the week we just had. Wow. First of all, kudos to Baltimore, top to bottom, their pitching staff, their defense, their offense, these young kids that they got up there. They were in rebuild mode, and let me tell you, they drafted well, man. Holy shit. Westberg, Gunnar, obviously hitting 3.
Well, that's the thing, too, is obviously, you're going to nail it with a guy like Adley Rutschman available, but they went out and got Gunnar Henderson that same draft.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, Gunnar Henderson was a second rounder. To be able to do that with your not first round picks that is textbook. That's what you want out of your front office. And then go out and trade for Corbin Burns?
Yeah, as a scouting department, dude, if you draft a Adley Rutschman and a Gunnar Henderson across a decade, you're a successful scout. Like, you're a great scout. It doesn't matter what the fuck else you picked. You picked those 2 guys. That's potential Hall of Fame guys right there. They're young. They're really fucking good, man. So if you do that in the span of a decade, you're an all-pro scout in my books. And to do that in the same draft and identify 2 of those players and develop them too. These are guys that they drafted and developed through their minor league system. So kudos to Baltimore. Hate that they're going to be good for a very long time in the American League, but it was cool to see that team play throughout this series, and they have to be right up there with, Philadelphia and the Yankees in terms of World Series favorites right now.
Well, and even just watching them hit and everything, and it was a lot the same with some of the guys on Kansas City and with Atlanta. You kind of see where we're not quite at the level of some of these teams where it's just any pitch, even really, really good pitches, they're still getting it. They're still putting in play and getting hits out of it. Like, there was a couple, like Castillo had some really good pitches yesterday that were turned into hits, that were turned into singles and stuff. And that's what separates the really good teams from the bubble teams. And right now it's clear we are a bubble team based on our hitting.
And it's crazy too to think, like, you take a guy like Julio Rodriguez, where does he fall in that Baltimore lineup? 6, maybe? Best case scenario, I think Westberg was hitting
now. Yeah. Like, he'd be 6, dropping in that lineup.
So, and I mean, like, I know Mullins is only hitting like 190 this year, and obviously he offers a lot in terms of defense and speed and whatever, and he's got a long track record of success in Baltimore, but he's hitting in the 8 hole. Right. And that was a guy that was, 2-3 hole 2 years ago. It's crazy how good of a roster Baltimore has right now. Yeah. and affordable. And that's why they could go out and, trade for a Corbin Burns.
And there is more on the way. They've got an absolutely stacked AAA team.
The number 1 prospect came up for a little bit, struggled, but he's going to be back, and he's going to be just as good as these other cats, man.
Yeah, they're scary. They're going to be the next tanks in the league.
That's a dynasty waiting to happen in Baltimore, man.
That's going to be the team you see on the schedule, and you're like, oh, I don't want this.
And the thing is, like, I don't think the Mariners are that far off. If the kids come up and hit in the next couple of years, they could have a similar roster as long as they lock up that starting rotation, continue to develop bullpen arms as reclamation projects to keep your roster Finance is low in terms of bullpen pricing. You know, don't go out and pay like a Josh Hader $100 million contract and keep doing the way that they're doing it pitching wise. You know, it may get there. We're not there yet, and we haven't had like a full blown rebuild like Baltimore did when they went out and drafted these kids and stayed patient and worked their way up over the last 6 to 8 years. But I foresee a pathway for the Mariners. I don't know for sure that is going to play out that way. Obviously, this is one of the best rosters in all of baseball right now in Baltimore. So, part of that is wishful thinking, but it was eye-opening to see where we are in terms of like litmus test against the best in MLB right now.
We kind of discussed that because there was the thing that came out in the offseason. It was like the prediction of every World Series for the next 10 years. And what was it, 2027
I think
had
so.
us or something like that, had us winning over Arizona. What would you say? And I know we weren't discussing this beforehand, so this question's probably going to catch you a little off guard. What would you say is the most important thing for the Mariners to do right now to guarantee them success in the next couple of years? Obviously, you need the prospects to work out. That's not something you can really control in like the immediate future, though.
Can I be completely honest with you? And this may not be a popular thing, and I might be
Are
stealing.
we trading someone away? Is that what you're going to suggest?
Yes and no.
Okay, what is it?
Not trading from the MLB roster, but I think a trade that is maybe not going to be the most popular amongst Seattle fans. But I would suggest swapping JP Crawford to second base and including Polanco in a salary dump for Bo Bichette and Harry Ford. Bring in Bo Bichette to play, second base, shortstop. Trade Harry Ford to get him, and then show him how fun Seattle is. Great organization. Sign him to an extension and let him be, that 200 hit a season guy without having to be the face of the franchise. I don't love him defensively, so that's why I said second base, shortstop, but. I think Bo's going to be available at this trade deadline if Toronto doesn't pull it around, and I don't think they're going to get to a point where they are a playoff team this year. And I think they're going to have to move these guys. Vladdy and Bo didn't sign extensions for a reason, and they're going to be available, whether it's, at the trade deadline or in the offseason. But I think if you can trade for Bo, sign him to an extension, and then have these other kids come up, like Cole and Ford, or sorry, Ford, I guess would be traded, but
Hey, if you can
that would
trade
work.
Ford and he still comes up for
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. But I like the idea of Harry Ford for Bo Bichette, and then having Bo be a prominent bat, even though he hasn't shown it this year. I do feel like there's enough of a track record to suggest that he would be a great offensive young addition to this roster.
Do you think Harry Ford is enough to get it done? Because there's gonna be other teams in the hunt for that, and I feel like it's gonna take more than the number 30 something prospect to make it happen.
It might take a little bit more than that, but I don't think that much. I think that can be definitely a centerpiece. I don't know who we have in like the 85 to 100 top 100 prospect range. I wouldn't want to give up Locklear, but you throw in a guy like Clase. I think you pose it to Toronto that here's your future Ben Revere back when you were this exciting playoff team in Class A. And I know we've discussed like best case scenario, him being that Ben Revere, of the Twins and then being traded to the Blue Jays. Harry Ford might not get it done depending on how other organizations view Bo. But I would almost sell out to bring him in. And this is a dude that I've been super harsh on since the day he came up, mostly for his defense, to be honest with you. I used to call him E6 because I hated his defense so much. But I do think based off of like how this roster is constructed and where JP is at with his career, Polanco going to be a free agent. I think he is a guy that should be identified as a target, in my opinion.
One thing I've been reading about, I just came across this article. I meant to send it to you. I didn't.
Rude.
But there was
Fucking
this
rude.
article that came out. Yeah. It was basically saying that the Mariners have the best defensive positioning in the majors
In terms
when
of
it
like
comes,
alignment?
Yeah, yeah. And before they banned the shift, like they were immaculate, and a lot of people are chalking it up to that's why JP Crawford actually won his gold glove. So you combine that and maybe Harry Hill can work some magic with Bo Bichette. The defense might not be that much of an issue.
That is the, you know what? That is an interesting concept to say the least. I didn't even think about improving Bo's defense, to be honest with you. I just accepted it as
You
is.
just gave up on
I was like,
him
what? It
already.
is what it is
You
at this
haven't even
point.
gotten the guy and you've given up on his defense.
The guy that I want to trade for, I'm like, fuck it, defensively, whatever. After I bang my head against the wall to say, hey, we got to build this team on defensive pitching, for me to be like, okay, let's go bat first for a dude that's hitting a buck 80, and that's the answer, using one of our top prospects. Look, I don't know for sure that it will work out, but I love the idea of Perry correcting those issues. And I do think if anybody was going to be able to do it, it would be him. We saw it with JP. We saw it with Suarez last year. We thought he was going to be Gold Glove eligible.
Well, and you turned Ty France into a first baseman. Ty France wasn't
Right.
a first baseman when he came originally to us, and he's fine defensively there. Like he makes some good plays and
Not a
he'll make some good
liability.
scoops. No, exactly. And that was the big concern because especially too, we had Evan White and we're like, oh, do we really want to take Evan White off the defense? And then people realize like, oh, maybe it's not that important to have a really good defensive first baseman.
You just have to not be a liability, I think. And
Yeah,
if
scoop the
Bo
ball.
can lead the American League in hits and have a 989 fielding percentage, I think that's a net positive. I think he's a guy that's capable of putting up a 6 WAR across a season. So yeah, just don't be a defensive liability. Perry, help us out in that and go get this kid.
That and you've got to guarantee that they can re-sign him. Because
That's the thing. There's no way I want him if we can't get him to, a 10-year, $260 million contract. I would be okay with that.
and
Like
there's no
a
way Jerry
Robinson
trades for a
Cano
rental.
type thing with
But
better
without
results. Ideally,
without the
better results.
steroids,
Yeah, yeah.
without the juice and the suspension
Hey, all we
and
had
the
to do
not
was
paying
trade
child
Edwin Diaz
support.
to dump him off on the Mets.
But we got Jared Kelnick.
Well,
So
and we were able to salary dump him to Atlanta this year. So everything's
he
coming up Millhouse, baby.
he recently just hit a walk-off single against the Mets there earlier this week.
Fucking full circle
We
right
won
there,
the
man.
trade. We won the trade.
Full circle.
Um, we now that we're on the discussion of trades, let's discuss one that I feel like has to be made sooner or later. How concerned are you right now with our bullpen situation? Especially, we had two, well, actually only one somewhat short outing, and we've got no days off until June 3rd starting now. So we've got 2 weeks of games.
Yeah, I think the starters are doing a fairly good job. Even Kirby today, wasn't his best start, and I understand that he gave up 5 runs early,
He
but he
was
really settled
grinding.
in.
He did
He,
a great job. He didn't throw a
yeah,
lot of pitches and he just kept going out there. That's exactly what you need
you have to
in
have it.
those days, especially going into a stretch like this where your bullpen is going to be exhausted at the end of a 2 week span.
And it's one thing to say, hey, we gave up 5 runs, and that's not a good start. But if you came and told me, hey, we gave up those 5 runs in the first 2 innings, and I managed to give you 6 innings where I didn't give up anything more than that 5 runs, that's going to go a long ways throughout the season. And you may not win that game, and it may not really show up in the stat sheet. But to know that he went 6 innings to protect that bullpen, that bullpen is going to play a massive factor in whether or not we win the division and whether or not we go to the playoffs, and whether or not potentially we have a bye. It depends how the Central plays out. But there is a possibility where that is the case, I believe, right? Is my mathing right here?
Yes,
Two
one
teams get a bye,
division
right?
winner, two teams get a bye, and then the worst division winner
The
has
worst
to
of it.
play a wild card round.
So we just got to finish stronger than the AL Central winner. I'm not going to make no bones about it. I don't think we're finishing with a better record than the Orioles or the Yankees, to be honest. But like it's there's a possibility there where you play yourself into a bye and you're feeling good, but you got to protect the bullpen, man. You have to protect the bullpen, and there is concerns. There's health concerns. Santos and Brash haven't pitched this year. Brash is not going to pitch this year. Saucedo went down. Luckily, Kirby Schneid came up and filled in admirably from the left side, with a caveat of a rough outing against Baltimore. But, I put an
Who
asterisk
didn't
next
have a
to
rough
that.
outing
I was
that
going to
game?
say, I mean, they scored 9 runs and it's
When is he going to lock it down? Be like, okay, guys, I'm going to keep it to 7 and you guys just come out and do some hits.
Exactly. I mean, you can't really hold Kirby too accountable. Obviously, you want to see him succeed against these better teams that you would be facing in the playoffs, but that's going to go a long ways in protecting the bullpen, and you have to because, we thought, we'd have the best bullpen in the league, and I think MLB.com ranked us as number 1 at the start of the league. With that being said, that was factoring in Brash and Santos, and they haven't pitched, and I'm not committed to believing Santos is going to pitch in any effective way for us this season. So, yeah, starters
Well, and not to
we got to
mention,
make a move.
if Santos does pitch, there's no guarantee that he's going to be shut down. This is a guy who's never pitched an inning with the Mariners. We haven't seen him in our jerseys yet. We haven't seen him in the Mariners uniforms. So we're not 100% sure what we're going to get out of him, which is also kind of a bit concerning, especially too after some injuries. There's a chance he's going to have some velocity issues for a few months, or he's got to work up some strength, or he might just have a dead arm because he hasn't thrown. Like, there's so many concerns when you come back from an injury that length. You can't rely on that and expect him to be like, all right, well, we got our high leverage guy back, he's going to be phenomenal. You just can't do that.
And even if he does come back and he is phenomenal, how long is he healthy? We don't know.
And who else do we have for high leverage situations too?
Stanek is doing, an admirable job, but you would like to see more. His ERA is a little bit high, to be honest with you.
And he also, his outings always seem to be interesting.
Yeah.
There's never really an outing he has where you're like, all right, we shut him down. There's always a couple things. Your hairs always stand up a little bit.
A little bit, man. He's prone to give up runs fast. It can happen for sure.
I'm also really concerned about this bullpen here because, once again, as we mentioned, not only are we doing 2 straight weeks of games, we're starting it off with a 4-game set against the Yankees, who may have the hottest offense in baseball right now. Soto is just rushing the ball lately. Aaron Judge looks like he's back. He had a couple of hiccups at the beginning of the season, but he's back. And even if it's only those 2 guys, you're still in trouble.
Yeah, I mean they can put up 5 runs themselves in a game, so that's going to be tough. It's going to be eye-opening. With that being said, I kind of like our roster offensively in Yankee Stadium. I think Cal's due for a couple of home runs this series. Demo swinging the bat so well in Baltimore. I'm okay. I want to win the series. I think if between Baltimore and New York, I wanted to win one of the 2 series. Obviously, it didn't happen with Baltimore, so now it's got to happen with New York. We could not have been coming to the Bronx at a worse time. That team's hot as fuck, man. The starting rotation is playing well. Their vibes are good. We played Baltimore. It is tough, man. We play Baltimore right now.
It's always a mean environment too, right?
Yankee Stadium's ruthless, right? And we just lost to the 2nd place team in that division to go on and play the better team by record in the Yankees. So it's going to be a tough series. It's a good team. They finally, after the last half a decade, put it together in New York, despite their best efforts, and it's scary, that roster right now.
Yeah, and the other thing is we're going in with the question mark. Do we have Polanco available for this one? I feel like right now it's getting to a point where it's like, just IL him.
You're gonna have to soon. Yeah, you're gonna have to put him on
him because we ran out of options today We used up all of our bench. It got to a point where if we tied it up, Mitch Garver would have had to catch.
And I mean, like, that's
And
not the end of the world. Like, he can catch. Is he better than Sebi defensively? I don't know that he's not, to be honest with you. Seeing Sebi throw the baseball is concerning. Like, does our catcher need Tommy John? I don't know, man. He does not throw the ball well at all, and you can run on that guy all fucking day. Obviously, there's a reason he's a backup catcher, and he's, starting the day game once a week or whatever the case is. And Cal's a workhorse for sure, but uh, I'm not convinced that we need to have Sebi up on the roster if Garver is a better defensive option, and then just have him do those spot starts behind the dish. I don't know. And Sebi has not played poorly offensively, to be honest with you. He has actually provided some offensive output, but Jesus Christ, watching him throw that ball today was painful.
I think the issue with Garver is that guy has a pretty large injury history.
True.
So I think they're going to absolutely baby him. But on the other hand, we thought the same thing about Mitch Haniger going into the season, and we know they are not taking it easy on him right now.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot going on towards protecting the health of Hanny.
The only reason Hanny's had some days off right now is because, and we should discuss this, this absolute tear that Luke Raley has been on. He's got his average close to 300 now. I think he's in his last like 10 games, he's hitting over 400. He was a guy we just need to give him those at bats, and now he's hitting it really well. And based on how he's hitting and his speed, his power speed combination, I'm kind of wondering, is it safe to almost start discussing moving Julio down in the order now that we've got some guys who are hitting the ball really well?
That is something to consider at this point. I just want to throw out I won my bet against the Braves because it's 7-0. I don't love the idea of moving Julio down in the order and as a two-hole hitter. He's hitting 270, so he's still one of the higher batting averages on the team. I think he's in second behind Rayleigh, to be completely honest, or yeah, again behind Luke. So. I don't think the answer is necessarily moving Julio down in the order. I do love that Scott is forcing Luke into the lineup right now. We saw that today with Ty France out and Luke playing first base. It's find a way to get that bat in the lineup. And I was hard on Luke Raley at the start of the season. I thought that was maybe a bust. I love that it cost us Caballero because, not to say or take anything away from him, he's having a phenomenal season in Tampa Bay. But to see what he is capable of, Luke Raley, as a player, and what we're seeing from him right now with cost control and athleticism, defensively, speed. I think it was potentially another great Dipoto Hollander find, much in the way of Josh Rojas as well. And now the guys that are here need to start putting it together. The Julios, the JPs, these guys that are supposed to be our bats that were already existing that we were trying to complement. They need to come around now.
I just did look it up. So Rojas has a 311 average for the team lead, Rayleigh 274, Julio 269. The concerning thing with Julio is his slugging, on the other hand, is sitting at ninth on the team, slightly behind Mitch Garver, 333 to 330. So that is where the issue I feel is coming in with Julio Rodriguez. His slugging is 12 points higher than his on base percentage, and I know he's going to turn it around. There's no way he's not, but I think there's a bit of an urgency thing right now because the team was carrying him for a while. We were carried with the pitching, but now you're getting into that situation where you've got to play yourself into that lineup. And yes, he's always going to have a lineup spot, but we need him to hit that stride sooner than later. We're getting into that, like, all right, dude, you got to do this, because we saw it last year. This team is only as good as Julio Rodriguez is.
Totally. And we need him to be a 100 RBI guy. And right now he's not. Like there's no power there whatsoever. And he had a good game today. I think he was 2 for 5 with an RBI. And he had a 2-out RBI, so it's just the power is not there.
The other thing, and we discussed this, it's at a point they need to almost bring someone in to help him with this base running, because in that one
Ugh,
Kansas City game, he was responsible for 2 outs on the base pass, caught like, and he got picked off again, which a guy like that shouldn't
that's
get picked
insane.
off, and he just doesn't look graceful on the base paths. Like, this is a guy who's getting bailed out by his speed on those paths. Like
And
that.
he is fast,
That
and
yeah, thank goodness.
it covers up some deficiencies. But man, holy shit! You
Watching him
can't.
round third in that one clip, it was like watching like a
Yeah,
12-year-old, just the little
that's
stutter steps.
there's just this weird like, and that's elementary stuff, running for him. It's why he's fast. He knows how to do it, but the angles he takes, rounding the bases, I mean, this is shit you learn in fucking T-ball, man. And to be a speed guy and be a middle of the field, like center field, shortstop, second base, like you're an athletic guy, you should know how to run the bases. You know how to steal a base, but sliding past the base, he does that shit all the time, getting picked off, not taking good angles, so you're getting thrown out at home. This shit adds up, man. Larry
And
Walker,
especially if you're not hitting for power, that's when you really need to make it up for base running.
that's exactly it, right? If you're a 270 guy hitting singles, like you have to now turn your single into a double or go first to third or whatever the case is. You look at a guy like Larry Walker as a Canadian Hall of Famer and a Hall of Fame MLB player. This is a dude that was not fast, but was a great baseball player and one of the best base runners out there. And it makes a world of difference. 90 feet can be the difference between winning and losing, right? 90 feet is standing on third base with 1 out as opposed to 2 outs. And it's a lot easier to drive that run in based off of how many outs there are. If it's 1 out, you need a fly ball or a ground ball up the middle as opposed to a base hit. So he's got to clean that up. The base running mistakes are mental errors. That shit drives me fucking nuts, dude. And it's got to stop.
Yeah, and it's got to be one of those things. That's one of those ones that's not even like oh, it'll come around. That's you have to work on that.
Yeah, it's inexcusable. It's mental, and it's mental errors. It's not that he doesn't know better or he doesn't know how. There's no way that shit is happening at this point of that caliber of player. He's just got to get his head in the game a little bit when it comes to base running.
So we've got a couple minutes left here. Let's discuss some fun stuff, and we'll start with the it was showed around Twitter. I caught it too. In the dugout today, Sunday's game, there was a binder behind Scott's service with a Pinocchio. Can we get it? Can we get a picture of it? Is that possible? Can we
Yeah,
get it
yeah.
in there?
Boom. Wait, we're gonna do it right here.
Post.
Mike.
There we go.
Mike is our
So
editor.
what what do you think the contents of this binder are?
You sent me that picture, and the only thing I could really think of is Pinocchio. Pinocchio's nose grew when he was lying, and I think the only thing I could convince myself was we are lying to ourselves when we say, "Hey, we're gonna try and cut down on strikeouts."
That's
I don't know. I don't know how that translates to the binder, but I'm like,
that's
that's the big
exactly
lie
what I thought it was. I thought it was just the script that DePoto had to stick to when he was doing that press conference, saying these trades were made because we need to cut down on strikeouts, not because we're dumping money.
Fucking
That or
Pinocchio.
it's just a picture that says, "Yeah, Julio, swing at that outside slider. You'll for sure hit it." What else?
Yeah, sorry, you just triggered me. I was trying to order groceries as you were speaking as a great podcast co-host who has been doing this for about 3 hours straight today. But yeah, fucking everybody has the Venn diagram or the jot form on how to get Julio out right now. Like, fuck, chase a slider down and away, and then go and bust him with a fastball up and in, and he'll swing at every pitch out of the strike zone, and it's infuriating.
I feel like so at the beginning of the year when they released the newest version of the show, if you did be a pro, the road to the show, you would use the dynamic difficulty, and when it would start you off on the easiest one, it was like broken in a way that the pitching, they just couldn't hit the strike zone. So you could easily get up to like AAA in no time if you just never swung the bat unless you had two strikes. And when I watch Julio, I'm like, they should just do that. That should just be his strategy. Only swing the bat if you have two strikes.
Yeah, and like the thing is like it's crazy to me that every MLB team that plays the Seattle Mariners right now knows how to get Julio out. It's no
It's
secret.
the same strategy every time.
We see it every at bat, slider away, fastball up and in. It's the same thing every time. And this dude is still hitting 270. That's
Yeah,
impressive. And I understand it's not
it
power,
shows
and
the skill, but it's definitely he's got to go in with a different strategy.
but we have to realize what they're trying to do to us at the plate. And now it could be a situation where he's overthinking too, and you'll see him take a fastball right down the middle because he's guessing slider. And that's the issue. He's guessing and he's guessing wrong. Sometimes you have to guess, and there are certain instances where you have to guess, but early in the count or not up in the count, you gotta have a better approach and not be so badly fooled so consistently that every MLB team knows exactly how to get you out. You have
Yeah.
to adapt. You have to adjust.
Yes. So as we're wrapping up here, two more things to hit. First off, I did not attempt the 999 challenge today. I will discuss why, and that is because we figure we might as well make it some kind of a live thing. When we figure out the logistics of how to do the live viewing, that is when we can do it ourselves. We can make it a 999 challenge as everyone's watching, and you can even attempt it at home with us. We'll have everyone eating hot dogs and drinking beers, and we will be responsible for the worst collective day ever. And
But I do
finally,
think
oh, go
I
on.
do think with the 9-9, we're gonna put a little bit more planning into it. I know we discussed that we were gonna do it this week. Reason we want to do more planning into it is I think that Jordy and I can throw together some sort of cool fundraiser. We'll let you guys donate and pledge as we attempt to do the 999 challenge, and it'll go to a good cause.
It's a
Whatever
lot less
that may.
sad that way than me just at 11:30 a.m. drinking beers and eating hot dogs in my living room.
Oh, I'm just being philanthropic. That's not a word. I'm just suggesting philanthropy to make us feel better about our degeneracy.
And finally, for coming up in July, should we tease this or can we announce it? What's
Tickets are live. Why not?
okay? You want to handle it? You know the details better than I do. I'm just showing up.
Jordy is just going to be in Seattle for the fun and the beer and the hot dogs, apparently. July 6th, everybody in Seattle knows Toronto Blue Jays weekend. Canadians take over the city. And let's take it back a little bit, Seattle. What we're doing is a Baseball Town live recording of the
This is
podcast.
our house, as King Felix once said. Well,
Our
I think he
house,
said my
baby.
house. He said my house, but now it's ours.
You could check out, I'll make sure to link it in the comments. We're doing Baseball Town live July 6th at 8 p.m. in Seattle. We're joined by our sister friend Scott Belford over at the Walkoff Blue Jays. We have Reese Green coming down participating. You may not recognize the name, but you would definitely recognize the face. He went very viral last October because he dressed up as Randy Johnson and looks exactly like Randy Johnson. His girlfriend at the time was dressed as the Bird, and he had
How much convincing do you think that took?
none at
Just
all.
like, hey, you got to be a dead bird this Halloween.
None at all.
Really? She
None
was
at all.
just down.
I know Reese, man. I know the man. That took no convincing. He's a buddy of mine. I've toured with him. Very funny comedian. So he's coming down. And even more exciting, we got a couple guys that were once upon a time Toronto Blue Jays, and then we turned them into even better relief pitchers. Joining us, Baseball Town Live. Taylor Saucedo and Kirby Sneed. Obviously, that's subject to change based off injuries, roster construction, and all those other factors that are out of our control. But Taylor Saucedo and Kirby Sneed, two best friends, ex-roommates together, are going to come down and join us. There's going to be meet and greet opportunities where you can come get merch, signed pictures with the players, and come out and have a fun time. It's always a fun weekend in Seattle when the Blue Jays are in town, and we're going to have a blast.
Yeah, so buy those tickets. They are online once again. Go with the VIP tickets. Go with the meet and greet. You get to meet an MLB player. Before we sign out, do you have anything left to add? Anything at all
None
you
left.
want to talk about, or should we call it?
No, we can call it. I'm excited for this upcoming week. You know, we got Baltimore, which was a fun team to watch, and I'm really excited to see
Yankees, we just
Yankees and
had
see how
Baltimore.
we.
It wasn't fun.
I want to see where we line up with the best. You know, I want a World Series. I don't want to just make the playoffs. I don't want to just make the division. So I'm excited to see where we line up with these top tier AL teams, and you know, and then hopefully we can bully Washington to make ourselves feel better after a tough couple of series.
And we got the Angels the week after too. So
God bless.
thank you so much for listening. Join in on the discussion in the comments. Follow us on Instagram at Walkoff Mariners. Once again, get those tickets early for our Baseball Town tickets. We hope to see you there. That is the Blue Jays series coming up. July 6th is when the series starts.
July 5th is when the series starts. July 6th is the event. If you're listening to this, use promo code EARLYBIRD for 15% off. That'll be good until June 1st. Otherwise, use promo code GO Mariners for 10% off. We want to see more Mariners fans than Blue Jays fans there. So we'll be tracking it for sure so we can talk shit to Scott.
Awesome. Thank you so much again for listening. On behalf of Juan Forno, I'm Jordy Botts. Have yourselves a great rest of your week.